Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Glue Guys podcast, episode 23. Some might say the Jordan episode. We would say that was wrong. It's of course the LeBron episode. Chad, how we doing today?
We're good, man. We're doing good. Celebrating. Actually, about to go enjoy some birthday celebrations here in a little bit. Ethan's birthday was yesterday. Our dad, Steve's birthday was on Thursday. Shout out to him if you're listening. Probably not. And then my birthday was on the 13th. So big month in the Larson family. So getting to spend some time together and feeling good.
Yeah, big month, and also a big month for the footballing calendar.
Perfect.
Kind of. We all like to pretend that the January transfer window is always going to be something big and grand and bold, but it rarely ever is. But we still wanted to give it its due on the podcast. If you see us ever looking up, we do have the City and Chelsea game in the background. We're recording this right after a very gutsy Arsenal performance to win 1-0, despite the I would say the single worst red card decision maybe of the season, but since there are two or three other Arsenal decisions that have been maybe worse, I'm not going to say that. Chad, let's start with maybe one of the teams that's playing today, Manchester City. There's a lot of stuff
Grabbing the headlines.
Yes, of course. So Pep had a bad 2 or 3 months, so of course we had to go out and slash 120 million in January, as you do. What are your thoughts maybe on their signings so far? Let's go one by one.
Okay.
Let's start with the one that I know that we're going to be aligned on. Let's start with Omar Marmoush for about 70 million pounds. What is your analysis of him? Obviously, sort of the forward from Eintracht Frankfurt. What are your thoughts about him and how he can impact the City side as he makes his debut?
Before I answer that, I'm looking up at the camera. I'm going to move us just a little bit because it's bothering me. So I'm actually going to do some on-the-fly editing.
Perfect. I love
Production editing. Boom. How's that look, guys? It looks a lot better. And you can't see every time I have to look over at my computer for notes. So that was the main reason we were able to accomplish it. Talking about Marmoush, we share the same sentiment, I think, about him. Really impressive what he's done in the Bundesliga this season. Really, actually, we were talking about it before the recording. Really impressive what he's done probably for like a 12 to 18-month span at this point. I don't know what it is about Eintracht Frankfurt picking these attackers up, these, somewhat kind of nines or traditional number nines, even if you go further back. And being able to get real production out of them, but they've been able to do it. And Marmoush is the next one in that line. But the biggest problem is the generalization of the Bundesliga second striker.
Yep.
This is the Kai Havertz effect, the Timo Werner effect, the Christopher Nkunku effect. I'm trying to think of who were some other guys that maybe fit that mold.
Really just Bundesliga forwards, if you think about it. Even if you look at the pitch right now, you got Jadon Sancho in there.
Yep.
You got guys, Erling Haaland.
Yeah.
What is he? No, that one was a joke. But all the other ones I do really stand by. I agree with that 100%. Especially, like Chad was saying, the whole second striker thing, where as soon as, especially Bundesliga attackers are concerned, and you start telling people that they don't have... Okay. Marmoush almost scored a minute of the game. As soon as people start...
Would have been on Worst Takes Exposed immediately.
As soon as people start saying, some guy doesn't have a position.
Yes.
Oh, where should he play? He could play left wing. He could play up top. He could play in the 10. He could play off the striker. He could play on the right. He could play anywhere. That's where me and Chad sort of be like, especially in the Premier League where it's normally a lot more structured.
Absolutely.
In this day and age. Absolutely. You can't. There isn't really a lot of flexibility for players just like, hey, just go out there and play.
Yeah, and I think that's why we've seen those players able to be successful in the Bundesliga because I think it's a lot more physicality driven, whether that's pace, actual strength and all that stuff, but endurance, stamina, high pressing and all that, high lines. Exactly, high lines, players able to get in behind. And that's one thing about Marmoush that he does add. He adds a bit of pace to this team. He adds pace and technical ability, which I don't think they had much of the combination of the two. They have Doku, obviously.
And just wanted to...
There's going to be some live commentating going on during this episode.
Kusanov has already cost Man City a goal 2 minutes into his career, so not saying he's a bust, but he's a bust.
Okay. As we can tell, Grinch Ethan is back. That's kind of the theme for the year. So Grinch Ethan is here. He's alive and well. So you'll be hearing a whole lot more of that. But Marmoush, he's been talked about as like the Julian Alvarez replacement,
Yep.
right? Which is hilarious because you got rid of Alvarez for I think 80, 85 maybe in the summer.
Made a 10 million pound profit.
Yeah, and signed Marmouche for 75, which is the confirmed fee that I'm seeing on Transfermarkt. And the reason why I say that is because there's been a lot of competing theories about who's kind of been leaking the fee, which side is trying to get it out there at what price. City, I feel like have consistently been able to get guys that may be below whatever value has been kind of perceived. You think maybe the Ruben Diaz deal, even Gavardio, the fact that they were able to do that for like 85,
He
90.
was considered to be a 100 million pound defender, and that's why no one was really
in on him. I mean, obviously the Holland deal for 60, the release clause is going to go down as one of the all-timers, but they've been able to get guys at a premium, at a discount most of the time.
Yep.
And I feel like with this Marmouche deal, if it is, look, we say 75. If it's anything north of 65, because it could be 65 with like 10 and add-ons or something. If we get anything above that, then we're looking at what I think is just an overpay for City.
Right.
I mean, we look at the transfer market right now. It's kind of shocking, and it happened really quickly where all of a sudden guys aren't going for those big fees anymore.
Nope.
You haven't seen as many.
There was the Neymar bubble, I guess
Yep.
you could call it the Neymar bubble, 2017 time, but really, and it really goes along with a segment that me and Chad did way back, like one of the first few episodes. I don't know if it was a segment or if we just talked about it personally. I think it was a segment where we ranked the 100 million pound transfers,
Yep.
and it was just like flop after flop.
I don't think
after
we've done
flop
it on
after
the episode, actually. We've just had the phone conversation 5 times. So
exactly.
that's where we're getting
It's just
confused.
like flop after flop. It's like Joao Felix, like really the one Griezmann, Declan Rice obviously flopped, even though he's probably the best at his position in the league now that Rodri's hurt.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just that bubble's sort of burst now where everyone's like, no, I'm not paying 100 million. I mean, if you really want to see something that really signifies that, where is Osimhen playing?
Yeah, exactly.
Because this is going to be the next 100 million pound guy, and everyone said no, and now he can't get a move. He's playing in Turkey.
Absolutely. And I mean, even look at
AI.
his Napoli teammate that I think we're going to talk about later, Kvaratskhelia, going for 70 million. I mean, if you would have told anyone 6 months ago that Kvaratskhelia was available for 70 million, people would have been like, no way. But that's just the combination of the January market just kind of as a whole.
Yep.
But also, with I think we're starting to see with the PSR and the FFP, let's be honest, the Premier League drives a lot of these transfers, especially when we're talking about the big money transfers, because there are only a certain number of teams that really have that spending power across Europe. And a lot of those teams are in the Premier League. Right now, I could say, maybe 8 or 9 teams could viably make a 60 million pound bid.
Yep.
I mean, that's crazy right now. But because those teams have been having to deal with the new PSR FFP rules, it's kind of restricted their spending. Therefore, it's kind of, I think, caused everyone's market value to pull back a little bit. And I don't think there's any deal that signifies that more than the Daniel Malen for 25. I mean, that's
25 for like a legitimate Bundesliga forward is
look, we talked about the problems with Bundesliga forwards before. No one's sitting here saying Malen's going to be a superstar, going to be awesome, but he's going to be a guy who can start for you on a lot of occasions, even in big games, and will fit in comfortably.
Right. So. And also, huge difference between someone coming in for 70 million when everyone's seen them score so many goals and do so well and expecting that same level of production versus if Daniel Malen in the back half of this season scores 7 goals and they finish 4th, everyone's going to be like, good signing because it's 25 million pounds.
Yeah. Or if he scores a clutch goal in the knockout stages of the Champions League, all it takes, when we're talking about the tiers of signings, when you're in that 25 million range, all it takes is you to have 2 good moments, and you're like, oh, okay, this guy was a good signing.
And it's someone that me and Chad actually were talking about this morning, like a Nicola Pepe. Like, he actually was not a bad Premier League player. Yeah. He was fine, but the fact that he was 75 million pounds holds him to a different standard.
100%.
Even, I mean, as much as I don't agree with that, I at least see the argument for, people saying Declan Rice not worth the fee, because is he worth 105 million pounds? Probably not. He's still a really good player, and he's still one of our most important players, but it can still be a miss, like a overpay, even if it's a good player. So all of that wrapping back basically is saying that we probably think that Marmouche, probably going to fall in that camp. He'll probably have a pretty good City career. He'll probably win freaking 2 or 3 Premier Leagues somehow.
Yeah.
But he's never going to be like, man, what a signing. Marmouche, he was awesome. And he scored 20 goals this one year, and he was the best player, and he unlocked the City attack.
I can't even say that. I mean, I could see him, maybe. And look, the future of City, I think, is kind of up in the air about as much as any team. But I'm not going to sit there and completely say I don't think he's going to score 20 goals in the season. Because let's just be honest, with the City, the number of chances they create, the number of games that they play. Yep.
Raheem Sterling scored 20
right,
for them.
Yeah, exactly. Plenty of seasons he had 20 plus goals. I mean, even Alvarez last year in the bit part where he was like half of a striker, half of a number 10 for them. He was able to put in, I think, over 25 goal contributions
on limited minutes
too. In all competitions. So I'm not going to completely rule out Marmouche's ability to score 20, but I just don't think. Like you said, I don't think he's ever going to be the difference maker that's like, we won the league because of this guy.
Correct.
We went that extra round further in the Champions League because we had this guy. So,
which is what the perception of him probably would be. Like, especially if he joined a club like an Arsenal, he would definitely be expected to be that.
Sorry, we're just
2-0.
No.
2-0. Oh, Jadon Sancho couldn't score.
Shocker.
Who would have thought?
Shocker.
Who would have thought?
Hey, but he can dribble, though. He can dribble. So final verdict on the Marmouche signing. We're probably going in the middle with it, probably looking at about a C, something like that. We're not going to give letter grades to all of these, but maybe a couple here.
Yeah, so moving on to that, Kusanov, already an F. Already an F. He already gifted a goal to Chelsea, and he tried his best to gift another one.
Yeah, I think the best case scenario we can have, and the thing is, I think we can kind of talk about Kusanov and then Vitor Reis, kind of at the same time. Yeah, because they're both
unknown quantities, young players,
young center backs specifically, which is, as we've seen, one of the hardest positions to play as a young player in the Premier League.
Yep, especially
Dean Houston's just the exception.
Exactly, Chad's boy.
Yeah.
So it is a difficult position, especially in this league, like Chad said, but also, what these City defenders are going to be asked to do is going to be a little bit different. When I was doing my Kusanov, had it covered. When I was doing my research on him, what I was seeing is a lot of very athletic ground covering, tough tackling, that kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. And so I think that would fit this City system, because the thing that people underrate about big clubs is that they have so much ground to cover.
Yes,
like people
100%.
like Saliba, Gabriel, Van Dijk, Konate, any of the City center backs. Like there's so many times where 60 yards are behind them, and their goalkeepers might help out a little bit, but they're not going to be the end all be all of any ball played in behind you.
Especially not if you have Szczesny behind you.
Especially not if you have Szczesny behind you. Especially, I mean, really at this point, Ederson seems like the go-to sweeper keeper. I don't think he's very athletic.
No, he's lost at least a step, and I think that's what causes him to make those rash challenges and some of those bad decisions. Is because he's still thinking he has that athleticism, that quickness from 2 years ago, and it just doesn't.
Exactly. So you have a lot of ground to cover, so it seems like that profile is pretty good. Mm-hmm. Interception machine, super athletic for him. I was looking at their numbers on FB Ref, and then for Vitor Reis, more of a good passer. It seems like he's good in the air and a good tackler. All those numbers were in the green on his FB Ref page, and just seems like a two active defenders. Which I'm not sure if that's necessarily a good thing, because active defenders a lot of times leads to things like bookings, and then when you're playing on a booking and you have a lot of space in behind you, it gets very, very dicey, especially when you can't properly deliver a back pass to your goalkeeper. So if you were to say, I guess, combined for them, because combined to them is this about the same as the Marmouche deal, about 70 million on top of that 70 million, which again, one of the all-time greats, being able to spend 150 million in January. So what do you think, what are you expecting from them maybe out of this season? Do you think that this, right there with one or both of them playing is going to be a mainstay? Do you think that's what they're brought in for? Or do you think it's going to be more of like a what happened with a Kanji or Nathan Ake, where it's like bring them in for 6 to 12 months, let them bed in, then we'll really throw them to the fire after that?
I tell you what's weird, and I'm gonna answer your question, but the weird thing about Akanji is I feel like he was kind of the one City signing that was like not treated that way. And granted, his was closer to the deadline when he did sign, so it kind of was a different circumstance. But I feel like he was a type that as soon as he came into City, he just started playing like every single game for them. And it was very weird and very anti what we had become accustomed to with Pep. So could I see that? Like, I think I've seen a trend, or I've noticed a trend recently, and it's more so with summer signings. So I'll be fascinated to see how it works with the January guys. Is a lot of times they'll go in and they'll just play the shit out of the dude the first month. Like, honestly, they'll give him like 4 starts if they think he's actually ready, right? And the thing is, we're talking about 2 guys who probably aren't ready. Yeah. To be honest, we've seen it. I mean, Kusanov, we've watched 12 minutes. I'm not going to judge an entire signing off 12 minutes, but
I did see him play against Arsenal, but I mean, that was for like 10 minutes last season.
Yeah, so. Exactly. So, with the limited data points we have, we're not going to make any final decisions.
Right.
But I think the best thing you can say is be open-minded about it. I'd be surprised if combined they started more than 15 games the rest of the season. Okay. I mean, now granted, Diaz, as we're watching the game, Diaz is not in the squad. He's injured right now. That's probably the reason why Kusanov is starting this game. That if he's not able to play, and obviously if injuries continue to be an issue, then they will have to play. But I think if it's Pep's choice, his decision, his timeline, probably won't start more than 15 games combined. Real quick on Vitor Reis, I did want to say my South American correspondent, scout correspondent Jonathan Ryder, who we're hoping to get on this podcast soon, did tell me that he is a gem, and he doesn't say this very easily. No, he was like, he's better than,
Marquinhos was?
No, but he's saying like some of the more recent guys that have come out of Brazil very young, or out of South America very young.
Defenders?
And the thing is, I was going to say, the thing is, we're comparing defenders to attackers in a lot of cases, because most of those signings have been attackers or a couple midfielders sprinkle in there as well. But he said that Vitor Reis is playing comfortably and like looks like he fits in very easily right now at 18 years old, which... as we know, is very hard to do. Yeah. So, anything else on City that you have? Or are you ready to move on?
They did also sign a guy named Claudio Echeverri, who I don't know, creative player, and he's
South American guy. I believe.
For $12 million. So I mean, at least throw his name in just so I can say again they had it bad a couple months and get to spend $150 million in January.
Yeah. Also linked with Andrea Cambiaso right now from Juve. Yep. So. I have thought it's interesting that they've spent so heavily in the defender position. Like, to me, if you're a guy who we love just kind of analyzing in Josko Vardiol, I don't know what this is saying about your long-term future. Is this saying that you're just going to be a left back pretty much the entire time? Because if you're bringing in Reis and Kusanov, and look, I know they're not... We haven't even seen Reis play. We've watched Kusanov for 15 minutes. It doesn't mean that they're going to be stalwarts in the squad for 10 years. But, like, ideally, you're signing these guys to play. So just has me questioning where Vardiol's place is in the squad.
They are young players, but they are playing, like, first-team football. It's not like they're signing 15-year-olds for the academy.
Exactly. Shout out Kevin Sullivan.
Exactly. So... The last move I want to talk about in the City is sort of the Kyle Walker to Milan move. AC.
Yeah. Yeah, be careful there.
Yeah, not Milan. Yeah, that's my bad. So, what is the...
Oh, no, it is Milan.
Yeah, Inter is in Milan. Yeah, that's okay.
Calm down, Serie A fans. We got you.
Yeah, not me, so I couldn't give a damn. But what are we thinking about that? We talked about a little bit this morning about maybe what that could look like, but do you see him more... Because, Italy, that's the land of the back three. Do you see him sort of playing in a back three, them shifting to that, so you play that right center back spot that he plays for England? Do you see him as more of a traditional right back where he's going to get ran by every week? What do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think they'll definitely start with him as a traditional right back. Emerson Royale has been manning that spot not very well for them this year. He's actually injured for 2 months, I think was part of the... although, to be fair, I think the deal was kind of already in place once Royale got injured. But I think eventually they will end up shifting to that back three. But as we talked about, I just don't know if that actually suits Kyle Walker at this point, because he's never really had the... To me, just straight up match intelligence. Like, I know that's wild to say about a guy who's won as many Premier Leagues as he has, and I mean, some would consider to be the best right back in Premier League history.
Right.
I don't agree with that sentiment, but the number of just clear mental errors he makes, I can understand like. Every guy who touches the ball 100 times a game for 38 games a season
is going to give it away.
Yeah, is going to give it away in some shitty areas, and it may lead to a goal or two. Like, I understand that. But when you're just making constant mental errors, I think that just, especially at the age he's at, he's in his mid-30s. Like, this is something you're expecting. Like,
it's not like he's Vitor Rios.
If he does that, okay. Like, I'm not sitting here going to say I love it, but I understand it because he's 18 and has played, like, 50 games of first-team football in his career.
Right.
Kyle Walker, a guy, like I said, probably go down as a Premier League legend in most people's books, just doesn't understand that, and I don't think he's going to pick that up when he moves to Serie A.
Yeah, he loves to fall asleep, which I think is the least favorite. Like,
and he has the highest percentage of raising the hand
when he's the guy keeping him on
when he's the last man keeping him on side. Whenever he puts his hand up, there is a 100% chance that he kept the dude on side. I've never seen a player like it.
Just the amount of times that like a back post goal is scored, and you're kind of just like, all right, I feel like that should have been Kyle Walker's man, but I don't know. Then you see the replay, and Kyle Walker's just staring at the guy crossing the ball. Then he turns, tries to make like a again, trying to use his athleticism to like last second hit the guy or something. And then and now that he's lost a little bit of that pace, a little bit of that strength, now he's not able to rely on it. And that's really his whole game.
Yeah.
If we're being honest.
Exactly.
But he was, I mean, don't get me wrong, he was fantastic at it. At his prime, like that 2018 time, like he was one of the premier fullbacks in the world. And
look, I mean, Kyle Walker's good, but we don't need to write the eulogy when he's done. He's just done.
I just wanted to be known that I'm not sitting here being like, "Hey, Kyle Walker's always sucked," because I know how sometimes that can be misconstrued.
Okay, City fans getting to him, a bit rattled here. You are.
No, because it's not City fans. It's just
because we know there are none of them.
They don't exist. It's the Premier League. Like purists.
Okay.
It's like if you've won X amount of Premier Leagues, you're not allowed to say anything bad about anybody.
Okay.
Like how Roy Keane couldn't play today, but that's neither here nor there. Let's move on to Kvaradona to PSG
Cut
now.
that out for the TikTok clip.
Now this is one that's interesting, and this is where it gets weird with like different dollar or like different currency amounts, because it was a 58 million pound move, but a 70 million euro move. So it's kind of like, depending on what number you use, it makes it sound a lot worse than it is.
I usually just like to go euros just throughout, not because it's camel cash, but
well, I know what kind of gifts you like to buy for yourself. So
moving on, I just think for me, because we're talking about deals across Europe, it's just easier for me. But yeah, when you talk about it with that big transparency, that's why I still remember the Gareth Bale deal, and that was one of the ones where it was like
the 100 million pounds.
You're right, 100 million pound, and then you look up and it's like, oh, it's 85.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. And even that is kind of like, because apparently there were a whole bunch of add-ons that may or may not have gotten met. And the thing about soccer that I hate, and I wish I actually could have gone back a couple episodes ago when we did the commissioner for a day thing, because
take away the add-ons.
No. I'm fine with that, but just add a level of transparency. Like the number of times where it's like you just find out a year and a half into a guy's deal where it's like, shoot, he has a 50 million euro release clause, by the way, that's active for these 4 clubs, and that's it. They snuck it in at the last minute. Like, what do you mean snuck it in? You're paying these lawyers like $100,000 an hour. And you're sitting here saying you snuck it in, they didn't find it? Like, what are they getting paid for?
Well, it's also funny because as American sports fans...
yeah, we're so used to...
everything being out there. You know exactly what someone's contract is. You know what their bonuses are. You know...
which I will say that's more of a recent thing, obviously, as we get more access through more internet. But that's definitely probably last 10 years or so type of phenomenon.
Yeah, but we all know, like when Patrick Mahomes signed his contract, we all knew what it was. When Juan Soto signed his contract, we all knew what it was.
And we know what it is. You know, maybe not the day of the signing, but within the week or so, we're like, all right, this first 3 years, especially in football, it's like first 3 years are this, can cut them after this many years, restructure here. All that stuff is known within a week versus soccer where it's like, hey, the day before the guy, like the Danny Olmo one is like, oh, hey, by the way, he has this magical clause.
Release clause.
That we just found out about the day the window opens. It's like, what are we doing here?
And then also, like even like wages. Like it's gosh, there are reports like like there'll be guys that have been in the league for years and years, like Marcus Rashford. They're like, oh well, he's on a reported 300,000 pounds.
Like, how
a week.
is this not confirmed?
It's like, how do we not know this? And so lack of transparency makes it harder for me and guys like me and Chad to do our jobs.
Back to Kvaratskhelia, though.
Correct.
Didn't mean to get us off on a tangent.
Well, Chad had a very good point in that he's their 300th left winger. And so what do you think that they have no real striker? Especially
Gonzalo Ramos, but yeah, that's
kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, he scored 1 goal the other day. Congrats. All right. And then Kolo Muani went out on loan. They've been trying to do a little bit of a false nine thing. So
Lee Kang in.
How does it not make sense? And then what do you think can make it make sense maybe a little bit?
So I think the thing that could make it make sense is I think the number one question with PSG, and we talk about some of these teams where, like, depending on what stage they're in, there's different things you should kind of be prioritizing.
Right.
Like, if you're Man United, and this was, I'm not going to go on a Man United tangent, I promise. Going into this season, or probably like around the time Amorim was hired,
okay,
when you knew the season was going south. But, you're not obviously going to give up on the club because you're a United fan. You supported them since you were in diapers. Not you, but just the United fan.
Mm.
The two things that you should have been worried about at that point is, how do we make sure Manu and Garnacho are like growing as the players of our club, the faces of the club, the leaders of the club. Yeah. Maybe not leaders, because that's just more organic. You either have it or you don't.
Correct.
They're like the main men of the club. Those are the guys that we want to build the team around for the next 5 to 10 years or so.
Right.
For me, if you're PSG, that's exactly how I feel about Barcola. Barcola and João Neves as well, but he doesn't really apply to this part of the conversation.
Yes.
I just think Barcola, I think he's been the best player in Ligue 1 this year, probably him or Mason Greenwood. That doesn't, look, I'll be the first to admit, it doesn't hold a very high standard all the time to be the best player in Ligue 1, but I think Barcola he's got the speed, he's got the ability to beat a man one-on-one, he can take someone out wide, he can cut in, he's prolific, he's a prolific finisher.
Scored a great goal the other day
he did.
Against your boys, City.
Yeah, exactly. Had an amazing goal there. Is a guy who can score but also create. Like, I really think he's the full package, will be the, France left winger for the next decade or so.
For maybe people that don't watch as much Ligue 1, who would you say his game is most like?
Man, first off, I hate comparisons, Z, because at the end of the day, we're all our own people. But a winger who I would compare Bradley
just his
Barcola
game, maybe not even the level or the
God, I mean, this is gonna get, I'm gonna get killed for this, especially by you.
This is definitely getting cut out.
I think he is like a
right-footed version of.
I was gonna say a right-footed version of Saka. But I mean, I don't.
Is he that physical? This is a guy that I don't watch play.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's more pace and finesse. Where I think Saka just has more. He's
strong. He bounces.
He just has more dog. Like, he really does.
He loves a little contact.
That's why I love Saka as much as I do. He just has more. Really, what Barcola is to me, he's a much higher level Jadon Sancho. Like, what the perfect idea of Sancho is,
more athletic,
as far as guy who can go past people, a guy who can finish, but also a guy who can create, like, who can really do anything that you would want out of a modern winger. And the thing is, now with Kvaratskhelia in, where does that leave those two? Because I think those two are going to be in the starting lineup pretty much every single game.
And they play the same position.
Exactly. Like, I would say those are probably their two best attackers. Dembele has been good since he went to PSG, but I just still don't trust him, along with the injury part. Yeah, exactly. Lee Kang in, sorry, but you're not at that level. Asensio is they're looking to get rid of him on loan by the end of the window. Ramos, yeah, he can play a part, actually. I like him as a player, but
obviously Kolo Muani, they show how they feel about him.
Yeah, so I would say it's Kvaratskhelia and Barcola. And my thing about Barcola is, can he move into the middle, I guess would be the question. Can he play that false nine?
It's funny because I'm, again, not saying that he's this level player, but these are sort of questions that we had to ask about Kylian Mbappe.
100%. No,
came through as sort of a striker, left winger type of guy, and now Barcola is kind of like the main attacking threat, but he's playing on the left. And
I'm sorry, like you're saying, not at that level. Obviously, this might be the part that gets cut out. Like I don't think there's this huge separation for what I think. Like I wouldn't be surprised if one day Barcola was like the best winger in the entire world.
Yeah, one day. But I'm saying, like, I mean, Barcola's how old? 21?
20.
Yeah,
he's 20.
And like this dude Mbappe was scoring 20.
Yeah, and
was scoring 20 in the league.
Yeah.
Every year at 20.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm just saying, like at this point in his career, he's not what
Barcola does have
Mbappe.
12.
This is not what Mbappe was at that time.
Yeah, not quite the finished product, absolutely.
Correct.
But I think potential wise,
prospect.
and yeah, I think he's not that level, but maybe just a level below.
Yeah.
Just a level below.
So I mean, like you were saying, like kind of that Bukayo Saka, like type of level where it's like he's not going to be considered the best player in the world, but you know if you have him, you're like we have an elite guy,
yeah, cornerstone for our team for the next decade.
Yeah, exactly. But do you? I mean, even going along with that, like I know you're a way bigger, I guess, apologist for a PSG apologist. Like, do you see his long-term future being there, or do you see it kind of being a thing where he's going to want to go on to a bigger club, a bit better league, something like that? Obviously, you don't know him, so
right? Yeah. I'm not his roommate, so I can't give you 100% confidence in my answer. But I think, I'm really fascinated. That's all right. I've cussed before. I think in this episode, unfortunately, I'm fascinated to see what this next iteration of PSG looks like. They went for that super club. We're gonna sign
Galacticos.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, they say that.
I mean, they had Messi, Neymar, and
right. But I'm just saying, like, not necessarily big fees outside of those. Really, Neymar and Mbappe, because we know they got Messi
and
for
Messi's
free.
Wages.
Because Kvaratskhelia actually is their fourth most expensive transfer at $70 million. With Mbappe, Neymar, and then Kolo Muani being third. So not as much on the fees, but yeah, like you said, the wages, especially the names, that pulling power that we talked about, as far as, hey, when there's a big prospect out there or a big name that's on the move, like a Kvaratskhelia, like, is PSG a team that can be in the mix for him? In this situation, yes. And I think Kvaratskhelia still holds that power. Like, his name still holds that weight. He hasn't had as good of an last 18 months as he did his first 12 months at Napoli when they won the title. But I think that's more because it was just new then.
Yep.
Like, it was new. We didn't know what he was. We were like, hey, they signed this Georgian winger who no one can pronounce his name.
Yep.
And then he scores a goal, and it's Cavaradona and all this other stuff. And then it's awesome, and it's great. And then, they kind of switched things up on him. He went from playing as a winger to now playing a little bit more as a striker almost.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of hurt his development and hurt, what he truly can become as a player, as a true winger. Because I think for him, he's more of that byline type of winger, beat the man, but can beat him inside and outside. Pause, no Diddy. But is that type of winger more so than like a guy who's going to be playing as an inside forward, contributing to goals like that?
Yeah, Bradley Barcola, by the way, is 22 and a half.
Oh, shit.
So
he's the same age as Ahmed Diallo, just saying. And people still consider him a prospect.
Well, the Ahmed Diallo thing is kind of like insanity because it's like they pretend that he's like an academy product that's like 18.
They spent $30 million on him out of Atalanta.
Exactly. That's
a long answer, though, to say I don't think the Kvaratskhelia deal makes sense, but I could see it somewhat working out just because it gives them even more firepower.
And he is a good player.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he's a good player. The fee is more than reasonable, so I'm not going to sit here and kill the deal.
I mean, I could see somewhat of a world, especially with people like Nuno Mendes and Hakimi on their team. I could see like some world where they're like, hey, we're going to play a 3-5-2, and we're just going to let those two be up front and just interchange, go wherever they want to go. If they want to pick up the ball on the wing, they can. If they want to stay central and pick the ball up from Vitinha and Joao Neves, like they can. Just kind of let them be a little bit more free up there. I'm not saying that they were signed with that in mind, but it could be a situation, especially for a guy like Luis Enrique, who I think is underratedly flexible. You would think 100%. Since he comes from that Barcelona camp, then he'd just be like a very 4-3-3 possession style. We need to play a certain way, but he's not really like that.
Yeah. No, he's willing to take a risk for sure. He's going to try
especially
whatever
on
he needs to try. Absolutely.
So, Let's move on to one. I don't want to spend too much time on this because this club and this player we've spent so much time on.
God.
But I just at least want to get your thoughts as to Marcus Rashford. What do you think? Do you think anything's going to happen for him this month?
I think it really has to. I mean, he's been left out of the squad like the last 4 games or so.
Under 1,000 minutes in the league, 4 goals and an assist. All his numbers are in the gray or red on FB Ref, except for, funnily enough, clearances, which I think, which is in the green.
He had one probably in one game.
No, it's 1 a game.
Oh, nice.
It's 1 per 90, and he's actually in the 90th percentile for attackers.
Jeez,
so
good for him.
It kind of speaks more to what United are right now than anything else.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
So, again, we kind of talked about a little bit when we had our United rebuild, and we've talked about clubs like Juve, PSG. It'd be insane for PSG to bring him in now, bring in another left winger.
Yeah.
Left winger, kind of left winger, kind of striker
him
type.
would almost make slightly more sense just because I think you can say down the middle.
He has been a striker before.
Yeah. Like versus the guys they have now that are just all wingers, but Enrique plays them in the middle.
Exactly. So, like, I don't even know what, like, his options are at this point. Even Kolo Muani getting the Juve move, it's like clearly they're making other moves other than Rashford.
So, I think from what I'm seeing, and I don't want to say I'm more tapped into the market than you, but I think what it is
I definitely don't follow as much as you.
I'm still green because
reading every article.
Yeah, I still believe like a lot of the rumors versus you. You've been through the cycle enough times to know, like, classic example, this Nkunku Garnacho swap deal that we might get into, might not get into.
Marmouche, debut goal.
Robert Sanchez is a bust, as always.
Oh, offside. Flag went up.
Thank goodness. Our take is
still on. Our take's still on.
But for Rashford, I was saying, I think he really only has like 2 options at this point. He's got
Saudi.
No. I think there are 2 European clubs that he could actually get a move to right now, but it would cost him. He would have to make some concessions financially, and that would be Dortmund. And shit, sorry. I think that might be the only one because I was going to say Milan as well, but Milan they're at their limit for non-EU players because they had to make some moves to get Kyle Walker.
Shout out Brexit.
Yeah, exactly.
But the one club that I would kind of give an asterisk to is if
Barcelona too, maybe. If they could even afford it. I don't know.
I'm freaking done with them. But if Leipzig do get this Šeško sale, they're like adamant they're not going to. But if they do sell him, that's 70 million freed up so that even if they don't have to pay a huge fee, they might be able to use that toward his wages.
Okay.
And also,
I thought you were saying a fee for him. I was like, God, I don't know.
No, not 70 million, but I'm saying like.
But I'm just saying, do you even think that, like, he could go on a permanent right now? I think it has to be a loan. No one really even knows what they're getting with the guy at this point. You haven't barely seen, like you said, you've seen under 1,000 minutes from him this year.
But his pedigree is actually bigger than I think people actually give it credit for. This is a guy 2-3 years ago that it was like, this is
second Ten Hag season.
The second Ten Hag season, he was playing through the middle, and he was like a legitimate, like...
He scored like 30-something in all
competitions. And again, he was playing in the Europa League. There's like weird FA Cup and League Cup games. Yep. But it's not like we're talking about a guy that scored 10 once.
Yeah, no, you're right. He's had 2 or 3
this was at
really
one point the
seasons.
Shining light of the
this
English
is so
attacks.
crazy. This is so crazy.
That I'm defending Rashford. I know.
This is so crazy.
But it's like, I feel like it's gone so far the other way that people forget that he's actually a good player that's just been shitty.
But these are the conversations that are happening at real tables on January 31st that allow a deal to get done where someone talks himself into...
You know what, 30 million.
Well, and maybe not even that, but it's like, oh, shoot, 6 months on loan, no risk. We just have to pay half his wages.
This is how Joao Felix gets to Chelsea for 6 months.
Well,
for £10 million fee.
Well, that one was... I mean, the £10 million fee, I just still will never understand. That might have been even more puzzling than getting him on the permanent, because we know the permanent was just, hey, let's get Gallagher.
We need Conference League guys.
No, well, we're so desperate to get Gallagher out of the club that we'll go spend $40 million just to net out 0. Whatever the hell that was, I don't know. I hope we don't see that again this summer, where it's like those weird June 28th. Where it's the dumb swap deals where it's like, hey, we'll sign your guy for 30, wink, wink, and you sign our guy for 45, wink, wink.
Yeah.
I'm sick of those after the one summer of it. But
well, the classic one is obviously...
Yeah, I mean, look, Vladichimis or Vlachodimos, whatever the hell his name is.
Oh no, I was talking about the Pjanic Arthur.
Yeah, no,
Swap.
that one's in the Hall
70,
of Fame.
70 and 80
Yeah.
each way. Like, what
No,
the hell
that
is
one
that?
is Arthur, by the way, still on Juve's books. Just in case anyone was confused by that one.
He had an all-time Liverpool loan spell.
Think he made one appearance for him.
Think so, which was okay.
Exactly, literally. So are you saying like that's so you're thinking he ends up in the Bundesliga? Basically, is from what I'm hearing.
I think Bundesliga, yes, or I think Bundesliga or Italy. I don't think he would go to another French club.
But I don't know, like. So Milan are out.
I mean, Napoli clearly are looking for some sort of attacker, I guess, if they're this linked with like guys like Garnacho.
We should
and stuff
spend
like
a minute actually talking about them after.
Which we can transition into it, but clearly they're looking for some attacker, especially some guy on the left. So
yeah, I mean they've been linked heavily with Eddie Amy in the last 24 hours, Garnacho before that.
Like there's no reason why we can't say that it would be them. Obviously, it's harder for him to get a move right now to a club within England. I don't think, United are going to be like, hey, Chelsea, do you want this guy for 6 months or whatever? So I would think it would have to be either a Germany or an Italy because of some of those clubs that have been sniffing around it. But then also Germany, to me, is just like where you go to revitalize your career.
Yeah, but do you think we're past? I talked about how I'm still green with the transfer stuff. Do you feel like people are still like falling into that narrative where if he goes to Leipzig and scores, 12 in the back half of the season,
I have a question for you.
Yeah,
who's wearing the 7 for this Sky Blue team right here?
That would be Marmouche.
Yes, I
that answers my
people.
question.
I think people are very much still believing in that Bundesliga 10 goal. And by the way, just for the record, I want to believe in the Bundesliga. I do, but when I saw Reece Nelson go there and score like 10. Or Serge Gnabry couldn't start for West Brom one year, then went to Werder Bremen.
Was the best player.
And was the best player, like literally scored double-digit goals. I don't think Reece Nelson scored 10, so don't quote me on that.
Who did he go to?
Hoffenheim.
Okay.
And he probably scored more goals in that season than he did in his entire Arsenal career. So that's why it's just kind of like, I'm not even disparaging the league itself, but it's just like going to that league, scoring goals in that league versus scoring goals outside of that league are two very, very different things. Unless you're Harry Kane, you can score them wherever you want.
Kane's pretty good. He's an all right player.
So
let's go to that Napoli.
Let's go to that Napoli. Well, just Garnacho, because he's also kind of been linked with that Chelsea move too.
Okay.
So Garnacho, just for the record, again, we talked about this in the United episode. I really, really like Garnacho. I know since Ahmad's been getting all of the plaudits over the past 6 to 12 months, it's like Garnacho's doesn't exist anymore, and he had that weird thing where he was left out for a game or two, and
I think he had some attitude issues.
Yeah, now he's been coming off the bench.
Started the last two or three.
Yeah.
So I'm with you.
But I'm still a huge, huge fan. I think it'd be a big mistake for United. I think he technically does count as a academy product, even though he moved there and he's like 17. For them to
whatever it is, the amortization is like minimal, if anything.
Exactly.
I think they signed him for like $1 million.
So I would think it'd be a huge mistake for a club like United to right now be letting go of such a prospect. I mean, he's 20.
Yeah,
and he's
definitely 20, by the way. Not Nabarkle at 20. That's
he showed that he can definitely be I think he can be a league average winger as a 19-year-old. He showed that he could be league average at 19,
which is so hard,
which is very, very difficult. Probably, and I know United fans don't want to hear this, probably about the level that Kobe Mainu is, like a league average center midfielder. Absolutely. But it's nice because he's 19. Yeah, so absolutely. Similar idea, and I just think giving up on that potential for what? You're going to win the league next year with the money that you get for Garnacho. So I think that they should just keep all of their pieces, keep their team together as much as possible. Let everyone Gvardiol. Keep all their pieces together as much as possible, and then just sort of build everything together, especially the young players. Like if you want to clear Lindelof and even Maguire and all that type of stuff. Whoever these other guys are that you're just like, hey, they're 28 plus. I don't believe in them anymore. Ship them off. Cool. I don't know why you do that with a 20-year-old. That's good.
Completely agree. I think the main issue, like reason why it's maybe being talked about, is because United basically have no money to spend to kind of make the squad more of the way Amorim would want it to be. And so I think in order for them to make the squad the way he would want, they have to invest, obviously. And you can only, as we talked about with the way the rules are nowadays,
spend when you sell.
Yeah, exactly. You really can only invest once you've made money. And look, there are some people who they feel whatever way they want about that. I actually think it's a good system. I like it better than just consistently every team, every one of the big, what's City going to do this year? Oh, they're going to spend $250 million on these three guys, or these four guys. And it's not even, it wasn't even just City. Like, I mean, Chelsea, obviously, the legendary run they went on in the 24 months before
that doesn't count.
The rules went into effect, really.
Yeah, I mean, even Newcastle did it a little bit.
Yeah,
sort of.
I think theirs was still at least a bit smarter, maybe. And
but
of course, they had to make that Elliot Anderson sale, so that's fair.
And they had big fees, with like Tonali and Isak and like Bruno.
Yeah, like if you're talking about multiple guys in more of that second tier, I guess that.
Yeah, definitely not like the 100 million pound, but definitely big fees for guys.
Yeah.
But for United, for Garnacho.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I agree with you completely. Like, find other ways to cut your wage, or to find money for yourself. Like you said, like
Rashford.
Cut. Like get rid of Rashford. Like, even if it's, I mean, like, I know this is gonna sound crazy, but like, if you like cancel his contract, like, I'm not even joking. Like, or just say, hey, like, buy him out the rest of the season, maybe something else small. Like, can we get you to just help us out in any sort of way? Because he's clearly not a guy who Amorim is going to play.
Right.
And like you said, he's not 22. Rashford's like a legitimate 27, 28-year-old. And if we've seen anything, I think, from the Raheem Sterling run that he's been on recently, it's those Premier League wingers that started putting up heavy minutes when they're 17, 18, 19. Those guys don't last until their mid-30s. They barely make it. They're at 30, 31 at the finish line crawling.
And not guys, I'm not going to say reliant on pace, but a pace is a big reason of why they can be so explosive and so effective.
Yeah, obviously Rashford, good goal scorer, like good technical ability with that.
Correct.
But like, a huge.
He's not Harry Kane finding a little pocket of space, getting out of his feet and smashing it.
Absolutely. So I would just look to get rid of. Like, I'd rather get rid of other legitimate first team options, like guys who you actually would want to keep. I'd rather get rid of than getting rid of a Garnacho for $60 million. Like, I'd rather find that $60 million somewhere else. Can we get 10 for Casemiro out in Saudi? Can we save some money by getting Lindelof off
and getting Casemiro's wages off the books?
Because that's a lot of the City or United players. That's probably what it is more than anything. Is I know a lot of them, the fees are probably amortized at this point or close to it. It's just about the heavy wages they're playing. And of course, Mason Mount being a complete sunk cost at this point. That's like, he's not even an option when you talk about like who could you get rid of. Like, I don't see a single.
That would be a guy that the contract cancellation would be.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a guy like classic cancel contract, goes to City and wins 2 trebles for them, and it's like, dude, how are we this stupid?
I was kind of go the other way, where it's like, cancel your contract, go and play for like a West Ham, have like an electric 6 months, and then another club like Arsenal is like,
let's get him. He's got more.
This still got some in the tank. Then he comes, he never plays a game.
Yeah, you're talking about the Ross Barkley signing. Although he's been okay for Villa.
He's been okay. That's what it is. Yeah. He's been okay. By the way, Youri Tielemans, I don't want to say I was right in the preseason, but I mean he's
been fire.
He's been really really good. I told you give him a little bit of protection, then he's going to be able to play in that role.
You were 100%. And I tell you, let's talk about Villa for a quick second, because they made that Daniel Malen move for $25 million. I think he was something exactly what they needed, and that was maybe not the perfect signing, obviously, because a perfect signing is to get the best players, but like, to me, that is hey, we need a guy who's not going to start every game, but can start a lot of games, fit in, be comfortable, and can provide real threats on the wing.
Yes.
Can play both wings as well. So Villa really light on wingers right now. They're basically playing Morgan Rogers as their left winger.
John McGinn's played a lot on the right, which is insane.
Yeah, like, it's funny. They play with, all those, those old, you're talking about Kyle Walker being like a classic Brexit fullback, but like the Brexit pictures where it's like, Sir Alex Ferguson played 8 defenders in a game and they still won and stuff. Yeah. It's like, dude, Emery's playing 5 midfield. He's playing 5 center mids right now, and they're 5th in the league and going to make it to the last 16 of the Champions League. So,
which is funny because I felt like last year they kind of had they had like too many wingers, and now they have none.
That's the thing. Bailey all of a sudden went to shit.
Yep.
Diaby they sold to Saudi, which I still don't understand why he went there, but whatever. I mean, I guess I do understand why he went there because there's a lot of money.
Jacob Ramsey was kind of out there.
Yeah, and he hasn't been playing. He was injured in the first part of the season. They've been working him back. He's played a lot on the left.
It's been sad what's happened to him because 2-3 years ago, like
he was like one of the prospects,
and now he's been hurt. He's been left out of the side.
It's kind of been a little bit. I don't want to compare it, but it's kind of been a little bit of that Emil Smith Rowe thing where once the team just got better and better, it's like, hey, we don't have a spot for you to continue to develop and learn the craft. We need someone in here who's going to know the role.
Help us either play in or qualify for Champions League football. And
we a la that Daniel Mullen signing.
And a la that, Leandro Trossard or Martin Odegaard or whoever you want to say took the minutes from Smith Rowe. Mm-hmm. Kind of going along with Villa, do you expect them to get Champions League football at this point, do you?
Villa?
I do, because I 100% think that they're going to get it.
So let's do the math. The Premier League, they're either going to get 4 or 5 spots this year. I would say 5 just to be on the conservative side. To be on the conservative for the way I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Liverpool are definitely getting 1 spot. I think Arsenal are 100% getting a spot. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, now we've got 3 spots available. Would you have any other team that's like a guaranteed lock to get a spot?
I want to try and say Chelsea.
So do I, but I just...
The past month has been so... And I don't even think it's a past month. It could be like throughout the season. Because we see all the time, I mean... Mo Salah haters on Twitter will tell me all the time, that back half of a Premier League season is difficult. And it probably is going to be when you can't every week have a fully healthy Cole Palmer and a fully healthy Nicholas Jackson and a fully, not even healthy as in like they're playing like
at 100%.
Yeah, they're tired. The wear and tear. They're getting to the latter stages. I mean, and once they get into the latter stages of the Conference League, by the way, those players are going to play.
Yeah, they're getting registered for the
knockout stage.
Most likely.
It's kind of going to be like, I want to believe in them, but what they've showed over the past month to me could show a sign of things to come. To me, it could be like everyone saying, "Here, you take it. Here, you take it. Here, you take it," and no one really takes about a scruff of the neck. That's why I think a club like Villa. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if they finished 3rd because of all the stuff that's going to happen. They have a legitimate argument of having the deepest squad of any of those. Despite Chelsea having 45 first-team players and stuff, like, whenever Villa have to make a change, you're never like, oh, shit, they got to play that guy. They're like, oh, Ian Maatsen has to play.
Yeah.
Like, Ian Maatsen got bought for $40 million, and he was played in the Champions League final last year.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right there. So let's talk about it. So we've got Arsenal and Liverpool as the locks.
Yep.
Kind of maybe the other teams vying for those other 3 spots. Obviously Villa, like we talked about.
Not Forest anymore after today.
Chelsea.
5-0.
Yeah, Forest got the dog walked on.
I mean, they're there though. So
yeah, I was going to say you have to throw them. You have to throw Bournemouth in there. Bournemouth are up to 4th right now.
Newcastle
100%. I'm glad you put them in there. Is that, I would say that's probably the 5 teams.
Yeah, Brighton's not going to get into that.
No, I don't think, obviously United or Tottenham can't make that push. I don't think.
I mean, they would have to literally like
City.
Win
City. I mean, City are in there. I think
City, yeah, but I mean, I would be shocked if there were 5 spots and City didn't get the 5th. I think that's kind of to me that's where City are going to finish now is 5th.
Yeah. So we've got. So who would you say so if we're saying we're putting in Liverpool, we're putting in Arsenal, we'll even put in City in that 5th spot just because like
you just feel like they're going to get it.
Yeah, like I would find it hard for them to continue to be as bad as they've been.
I mean, they're 7th right now.
They are. But I just we'll put them in for the exercise because we both think that they're going to eventually.
I think they're going to get it. Yeah.
I'm not saying get it together as in figure it out and contend for the title, but figure it out enough to at least finish at 5th.
Yeah.
So where are we going with those other 2 spots?
I would say Villa.
Okay.
And Chelsea. I would say Villa and Chelsea. I would say Villa's probably going to finish 3rd, Chelsea 4th, and then I think Newcastle probably 6th.
It's funny, you and I remember going back to the preview, like our flip-flop was on that Villa Newcastle, and I think I'm still kind of there as far as on the Newcastle side. I think Newcastle.
Just very quickly, sorry, we're looking at the table right now. It's Liverpool first, Arsenal, Forest, Chelsea, Newcastle, Bournemouth, City. So Villa's 8th, but I still believe in that Villa side more than I believe in that. Definitely that Bournemouth side, even though Iraola has done absolute wonders.
Yep.
They might actually suffer from something where sometimes you start getting some of those pieces back. If you're doing well,
It's hard to mix in.
It's hard to mix them in. People are kind of like, hey, why aren't I playing?
Yeah.
That whole kind of thing starts to take shape. So go back to your point on believing in Villa versus Newcastle.
Yeah, I've been on more the Newcastle side. I think when you talk about squad depth with Villa, I honestly think that's an argument you could somewhat make with Newcastle. I think in the front three, they're probably a little light.
Yeah.
That'd probably be where I would say they maybe just lose the argument. But I mean, shoot, like as we talked about with Villa, look at the guys they're playing in that front three. They're obviously, a little on the lighter side as well. So it'll be interesting to see if either one of them can kind of make that. Obviously Villa have probably already made their marquee signing of January in Malen. Can Newcastle do something to maybe add a depth piece closer to the deadline? As of right now, I still would back Newcastle to finish probably third. I think Chelsea, I just think they have too much talent to not get that third spot, really, compared to the other teams. Every team in the mix is going to have some flaws. So you can play the argument game with each one of these teams and it'll sound really good. But I just think Chelsea have too much depth and too much talent to not finish third.
Yeah, I'm pulling up the table now because I got to see. I think it's very, very tight in there from that sort of like 5th to
10th even.
Yeah.
Something in that. Like all the way down to like Fulham and all that. Like Fulham have, depending on the week, like they have had...
So yeah, Villa is on 36 points. So they're 3 points back from City with a game in hand.
Okay.
And this is counting a City point here.
Yep.
So, which is 1-1 right now. So if they win, they go 7th, and they're within a point of Bournemouth, 2 points of Newcastle, 2 points of Chelsea.
They're right there. They're 100%
They're right there. And they're playing against West Ham this week.
Yeah,
at
guaranteed
home.
win.
You're not believing in Potter?
I am believing in Potter, but I don't
Their
know.
squad's not good.
It really isn't, which is so weird because I thought it was.
Think that it would.
Because they've made investments, but the thing is the investments have just, like, not worked. Like, Fulkrug, I mean, we already... Sorry.
I believed in him. I believed it. Hey, he's hurt. He's hurt.
Oh, okay, yep.
Is he not?
No, he is. He is 100% hurt, and when he comes back, he's going to be awesome. The Somerville signing, just... They haven't played him enough. I still think he's young. He hasn't worked out yet, whatever. The Guido Rodriguez has been like, they signed, and granted, I know they got him on a free, but like they signed him to be like one of their main starters in the double pivot, and he's just been atrocious.
Which I've never even rated Alvarez at before, and now they're trying to do
Alvarez is like the main.
Because they're like, Socek is like a freaking free 8 for them.
Yeah.
In a weird way. Like, he's like, I always thought he was supposed to be like a DM, but he's kind of more falls into like that Abdoulaye Doucouré, poor man's Amadou Onana type, where it's just like run around, make tackles, head the ball.
Homeless man's prime Leon Goretzka.
Yeah, literally.
Basically.
Homeless man's Goretzka, where it's just like, just float around, hit people, win the ball.
A presence in both boxes.
Yeah, that kind of a
type
thing.
Stuff. And it's just, that hasn't worked out so far. So I think there's going to be major surgery done to that squad in the summer, which will be interesting because it's like, how much more can they do? As we talked about, they've made a lot of investments.
I will
it just
say,
hasn't
though,
been the right investments.
like West Ham are kind of viewed as like this like Premier League staple club.
No.
They've really only been consistently in the league for like the past 12 years.
Yeah.
Which sounds like a long time, and it is, but it's like, I wouldn't be shocked if like a Leicester City thing happened to them where it's like...
all of a sudden it gets weird.
The club and the board kind of look at it and be like, maybe we'd just be better off selling Bowen and Kudus and Paquetá and just seeing what we can do with a smaller wage bill. And then you kind of look up one day. This happened to Villa, not the last time they got relegated, the time before, where everyone was kind of just like, hey, you know, they're Villa. They'll stay up. They'll be good.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they finish bottom.
The conversations we're having about Everton kind of for the last 2 years.
Correct.
It's like, and the funny thing is Everton haven't even really sold anybody. They just
Well, they just won today, so against Brighton.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like they're kind of getting to that territory where you'll see a lot of clubs, even if they've been in the Premier League for a little bit, that they kind of go, maybe we should sell this guy, sell that, like sell our big ass. I mean, if you think like they could raise over 100 million, probably maybe even over 150 million.
I think
pounds
definitely
for
150
for those
so
three guys. So, and they might just look at it and be like, "Hey, we'll do that. We'll make 150 million. Yeah. We'll spend 75 on their replacements on guys that aren't as good, but they'll keep it up. They'll keep us up." And then they kind of look at it in February and they're kind of like, "Oh shit, we're still 18th. What's going on?" I could definitely see that happening to them.
They signed Marcus Rashford for 20 million as like
on 300 on his United wages.
They're like, "Hey man, we got a discount on the fee, so it doesn't matter what we're paying in the wages."
That's my go. I love that when a free agent
signed
is
for
like
a free
agent
400,000 a week.
Exactly. So
the David Alaba to Real Madrid, and look, he's worked out, but well, kind of. I mean, who knows?
Good player at least.
Yeah. But it was like, hey, we got him on a free, and it was like, and he's the third most or
highest paid player in the squad
on a club that has the second highest wage bill in Europe. It's like, oh, okay, sick.
Wait, behind who?
Who does have the highest wage?
I have no idea.
I know
it's not us.
I want to say Barcelona, but I don't even know if that's possible.
That would check out.
Well, the thing is, Frankie De Jong is the highest paid player.
He's like 530 or something like that. Something insane.
Yeah, something where it's like, yeah, that's way too much. I like Frankie De Jong, but that's way too much.
And I don't even know if I really love Frankie De Jong anymore, to be honest.
No, I said like for a reason. Yeah. I said like. Yeah, didn't say love. Didn't say love.
Were there any other moves that you really wanted to get into? I know you had some notes. The only thing I have down really is the Romain Esse, who I was going to pretend that I knew anything about, for $12 million to Palace. And then Julio and Ciso on loan to Ipswich, which I think is a good move for them. It's not going to keep them up.
No, not. But you know what? They're starting to build, or they've built kind of a fun attack for not that much money.
I love their attack.
When you're talking about Delap, Hutchinson, now in Ciso,
who I think is a good player, scored an absolute worldie at the Vitality last year.
Yeah, he did. He actually, I think he had a banger against
like Chelsea or United.
City. Yeah.
Because it was when I was rooting against City to drop points. I was like, oh shit! And Ciso just scored from a million miles away.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, I've got some other smaller moves here. One club I did want to hit on is the club that somehow just become my favorite team in Europe outside of Real Madrid, which is Juve.
That is yours. That is your team.
They are continuing to back Malta as much as they can. I mean, they have no money right now because they spent like 200 million almost in the summer. But they were able to bring in Renato Vega on loan from Chelsea,
who's apparently the best player of all time because he makes plays against Minsk.
Well, it's weird because like I actually don't mind Vega in the minutes I've seen him play. Granted, like you said, I've only seen him play against Alphabet FC. And Directional State FC, but he's looked good as a left back in those minutes. Now, apparently the thing is he's moving to Juve because he wants to play center back, and that was like the whole reason he was available because he was like, bump this. I want to play center back. So, is he going to end up taking a spot from Kalulu, who I think has been their best summer signing easily, or Gatti, who's like the enforcer kind of like playing a center back pairing of Kalulu and Vega just is too light for me. So I'm worried about that one. And then of course the headliner for them was Randall Kolo Muani on loan. Would you have gone? Where would you have been? You talked about maybe Rashford there. Where would you have been on like a Kolo Muani Rashford kind of argument if those are the two guys and you're like we can get one of them on loan?
Well, I just think Rashford
money's similar, fee, wages, all that stuff.
I just think that Rashford's just straight up better, so I would rather have him.
Okay.
Obviously, and then just the fact that Kolo Muani, I've never believed in. So
no, that's fair. He's not going to change your opinion.
I'm not going to change my opinion
because he's wearing a different jersey.
Exactly. So I'm just
I think,
and also with Rashford too. Mm-hmm. Is like sort of the point to prove aspect of him. Like he's had a point to prove for many, many years now.
See, that's funny you say that because I feel like it's almost the opposite. I think
he doesn't give a damn.
I think Kolo Muani has more of a point to prove.
But he got a huge move. Like
Rashford's on 300,000.
But he's been at his club for the whole time. It's like he's been playing professional football for United for 10 years.
Yeah.
Like maybe like a change. I hate to be the change of scenery guy, but like a change of scenery, like being like, hey, I'm going to move to a new country and show everyone that I still deserve. I mean, he's out of the England team.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Maybe he still cares about that.
Yeah. That's maybe like the one thing that I would think could be like maybe something like to push him to keep him going.
Motivating.
Motivating him would be like, hey, you still want to get that England call up.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and he's the way he's sort of viewed is like you said, like he's 40 or something. Like he's at the twilight of his career. Like he's in the prime years.
Yeah, no,
like, he's
absolutely.
probably like 27, 28, and I really think that he's. Or I hope at least. Like I really want to see Marcus Rashford do good, not against Arsenal, but just in general.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not sitting here rooting for anyone to be bad, but I'm
rooting for Omar Marmoush to be bad.
Fair enough. I'm glad you're at least transparent about it. That's what matters.
I don't like to hide my feelings.
No, not at all. Not at all. Anything else that you wanted to hit on? I kind of gave my 2 cents on Juve. Anyone else? Any other team that you maybe wanted to highlight, or any move? Anything maybe kind of looming as the window shuts down? This is going to be our last episode before
the window closes. Next Saturday.
Yeah, but we'll touch on some stuff in the next one if we need to. Anything major happens.
I just want to temper everyone's expectations. Arsenal will not sign one of the big strikers.
Yep, agreed.
And I'd actually be shocked if they really signed a real right winger beyond like either a loan move or like a young something. Like, if you think we're getting, like, Brian Mbeumo or someone that level, like, that's not happening this January. I hate to be the bearer of bad news.
The one guy who I've sneakily seen could be available on a loan with a buy option is Brian Broby out of Ajax. I think, actually, you're laughing. I think he could actually be an okay signing for you if it's an option, if it's a buy option. Because, like you said, basically a loan, and you can decide what happens after there. Limited risk. Young player, something to prove, energy, could at least be worth a flyer.
Yeah. So
not sure even why he's available. He's one of the, we talked about it before. It's like, why do teams have like the sixth best guy in their club is like somehow available for a loan and stuff? And it's just the way agents work and all that type of contracts and all that type of stuff. So I don't know. Could be a good move for you guys.
Yeah. So let us know what you guys thought about today's episode. Try to keep it a little bit more streamlined, a little bit shorter, kind of like last week. Next week, we're hopefully going to be talking some NFL. So, hoping to do some NFL and, really, really appreciate the engagement. We've been getting a lot of decent stuff on TikTok with our engagement, especially Chad's LeBron point from last week. So,
yeah. Which he did end up getting named a starter. So, good for Bron. I was happy for that. I really was. Although, I didn't like that Wemby wasn't named a starter. NBA do better. Because he's one of the 10 best players in the league right now, no doubt.
I mean, he's definitely one of the 5 best players in the West. I'll tell you that.
I would 100% agree.
So, let us know what kind of topics you want us to cover. Anything NFL specifically that you want us to talk about. And we'll see you next week for the number 24 episode. Some might call the Kobe episode. We'll see you then.
Froby.